I've got prostate cancer, but I really wanted to make it to the big game with my grandson. And here we are. Go, go, go!
With Erlita, apalutamide, being there is possible. Erlita is a prescription medicine used to treat prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and still responds to a medical or surgical treatment that lowers testosterone. Erlita may cause serious side effects, including heart disease, stroke, or severe skin reactions, which can lead to death, falls, fractures, and seizure. Seek immediate medical attention if you experience symptoms of a stroke or severe rash. Erlita can cause harm to or loss of an unborn baby. Common side effects were fatigue, joint pain, rash, decreased appetite, weight loss, high blood pressure, hot flash, and diarrhea. Ask your doctor if Erlita is right for you. Or tap this ad to visit Erlita.com. CP4392667V1.
Hey there, it's Orphe Divounguy, the co-host of the Everyday Economics podcast. Exciting news! Check out my new weekly column at thecentersquare.com. Join me as I break down complex economic trends in a way that's easy to understand for everyone. Check out the column every week and stay informed about the economic forces shaping our world. Be sure to subscribe to the Everyday Economics podcast and visit thecentersquare.com today.
Welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation, Everyday Economics, and production of America's Talking Network. You can subscribe to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make a tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording this episode on Friday, June 28th. And joining me, as always, my friend and colleague, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, I was headline scrolling on Thursday night, the night of the debate, I think during a commercial break, and I came across this story from CNBC that had this headline cast on it. IMF says Fed should hold interest rates where they are until at least the end of the year. And I'm like, I don't know that we've ever talked about the IMF on Everyday Economics. The IMF seems to have a lot of things to say about a lot of things.
Well, first, why don't we just say, hey, the IMF actually stands for the International Monetary Fund.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, and let's take it from there. Now that we know what it stands for, should we care what it has to say about much of anything? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
What is the IMF? Well, it's a global organization that was put together to, by the way, founded by 44 member countries. Okay. And what was the goal? The goal is to build a framework for economic cooperation, right? So before the IMF, everybody did whatever they wanted all over, and they still do. But the IMF is there to provide kind of a forum to come together and talk about issues, right? The IMF provides technical assistance, right? So like we want to have like access to data and transparency. So the IMF is there to provide technical assistance, to provide policy advice even. Okay. Right. They'll advise some of the smaller countries that may be struggling to get their house in order. And that's kind of what they do.
Let me ask you this question. When we're like, well, this IMF 101. So the International Monetary Fund lends money in much the same way that the Federal Reserve puts money into our economy, right?
Yeah, they kind of rescue.
They're called the lender of last resort, right? And they largely focus on countries that are really, down and out, right?
That's right.
Well, let me ask you this question. Where does the IMF get its money? I mean, the Federal Reserve, we know what they have the ability to do in deciding how much money there is in the economy. They could print money and they do. But where does the IMF get its money?
Well, the money is basically just like the UN, right? The money comes from subscriptions from the member nations that basically have to pay kind of a subscription, right? But also like, borrowing agreements between countries.
How much money do you think the IMF has on hand?
They had the capacity of lending roughly $932 billion, so about $1 trillion was their lending capacity, was about $1 trillion at the end of 2023.
So the special drawing right, the SDR, is an international reserve asset created by the IMF in 1969 to supplement other reserve assets of member countries. You have any idea what an SDR is?
Well, you just said it. It's an asset. It's kind of like, look, 695 billion SDR is about $932 billion.
Where did it get where did it get this kind of money? I'm sort of at a loss to understand. I don't really understand what the IMF does.
Just like everywhere else, right? Where do we get our money? We buy and sell assets. We borrow the money, right? And so that money is borrowed and then invested or lent to other countries with the understanding that, and very, very often the IMF will have some restrictions attached to that spending. They will have, part of the technical assistance they provide is they promote transparency. They want countries to improve their policy making. They want countries to be less corrupt. And so they promote a bunch of the good things that we actually tend to believe in and agree with over here.
All right, let me bring it back around then. So the IMF, this international organization, they spoke on the U.S. economy this week, and their urging was that the Federal Reserve should hold rates where they are until at least the end of the year. That's from them. I mean, why would we take advice from the IMF?
Well, I don't think we actually take advice from the IMF. You have all these think tanks out there, and I'm just using that as an illustration. You have all these think tanks out there that think they know how state and federal government should run policy, right? They have all these experts. They provide technical assistance, right? I remember when I worked at a think tank back in Illinois, what we would do is occasionally we would actually put together, what we thought the budget should look like, a state budget that would actually make sense, that would promote economic growth, that would be sensible, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the IMF, basically, because they have access to so much data and so much technical expertise, they will basically occasionally come out with a report. And that report will say, hey, here's what's happening. We want to manage economic fluctuations. We want to achieve price stability. We want to keep inflation low and stable, which are basically the stated goals of the Fed, right? And they say, well, here's what we're seeing, and here's how this could be accomplished. And so that's basically what's going on here.
Got it. Loud and clear. For Orphe, Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americanstocking.com.
I've got prostate cancer, but I really wanted to make it to the big game with my grandson. And here we are. Go, go, go!
With Erleada, apalutamide, being there is possible. Erleada is a prescription medicine used to treat prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and still responds to a medical or surgical treatment that lowers testosterone. Erleada may cause serious side effects, including heart disease, stroke, or severe skin reactions, which can lead to death, falls, fractures, and seizure. Seek immediate medical attention if you experience symptoms of a stroke or severe rash. Erleada can cause harm to or loss of an unborn baby. Common side effects were fatigue, joint pain, rash, decreased appetite, weight loss, high blood pressure, hot flash, and diarrhea. Ask your doctor if Erleada is right for you. Or tap this ad to visit Erleada.com. CP4392667V1.
Hey there, it's Orphe Divounguy, the co-host of the Everyday Economics podcast. Exciting news! Check out my new weekly column at thecentersquare.com. Join me as I break down complex economic trends in a way that's easy to understand for everyone. Check out the column every week and stay informed about the economic forces shaping our world. Be sure to subscribe to the Everyday Economics podcast and visit thecentersquare.com today.